Welcome to the Joanne Avison podcast. Today, I'm going to share something with you from my book, Yoga, Fascia, Anatomy and Movement. And it's a section in there called Archetypal Geometries. It's chapter 12, which is the archetypal number of completion. And I'm going to read a bit of it to you and share something with you that links to the law of three, because there are three words that come together when all three are used together. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because there was a discussion recently that I heard about where someone was talking about the body as a hierarchical system. In other words, certain things happen before other things, and there is a hierarchy. And someone else said, according to tensegrity, the body is not hierarchical, it's heterarchical, meaning it works in webs and everything is equal. That's not entirely accurate because they're both true. And in the law of three, it really helps us to kind of expand. And I kind of call it looking for the whole trinity in the situation, or triangulating the situation, which is effectively what understanding tensegrity allows us to appreciate, is triangulation. And the word hierarchy and the word heterarchy, if we look for a third word, we find one coined by Ken Wilber, which is Holarchy. So what is a Holarchy? Well, a Holarchy is a wholeness. So, for example, every single letter in the alphabet is part of the alphabet. So we could say, in one way, they're heterarchical because they're all equally valuable. But then if we were looking in terms of how often certain letters are used in a given language, we might say there's a hierarchical order of some being of a higher order than others, having more impact, having more use, having more recognition. Like Q is not used as often as E, for example, or any of the vowels. So that would be a subdivision. But the Holarchy would be the whole alphabet. So think about it in terms of a book, for example. Each letter in and of itself is whole and complete. When it's used together to form a word, each word in and of itself is whole and complete, even though it's made up of individual letters. Each sentence in and of itself is whole and complete. Each paragraph in and of itself is whole and complete. And each page of writing containing the paragraphs, which contain the sentences, which contain the words, which contain the letters, are whole and complete. So each layer of the Holarchy, if you will, like Russian dolls, is whole and complete in and of itself. So we could say that the human body is all three. Then we bring in the law of three. We have hierarchy. So in an emergency, for example, the body will default to hierarchical survival systems. That's what it does. And thank God for it, because it can save our lives by doing so. So there is hierarchy in the human body. There is default to hierarchical pattern where it looks after itself. It saves itself from deeper injury than might be sustained. It resists deformation in a sequence which is hierarchical because of our fascial sensory perception and because of our nervous systems and because we are self-preserving creatures like most animals, and we have a hierarchical order. Now, that hierarchical order can change when nervous system is disrupted or regulation is disrupted. However, there is a pattern, a survival pattern in living things, and it's hierarchical. It is also heterarchical. There are also aspects of the human body that share the structural network, for example, the pattern of tensegrity throughout the cells, throughout the tissues, and integrated by the way they form together what whatever formation they are within the whole, meaning the bones within the whole body, the myofascia within the whole body, the tendons within the whole body, none of these are separate, obviously. All the vessels and the organs and the so-called systems within the architecture, the living soft matter architecture, have a heterarchical aspect to them, where the webbing on any scale is designed to communicate, resist deformation, and honor the vibration and frequency of our living resonance field, of we could call it our beingness. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I wanted to read this to you because I've talked recently about geometry, about sacred geometry in the living body. And one of the people that is considered a great modern geometer is a man called Keith Critchlow. And in his beautiful book about geometry in nature, it's an exquisite, there's more than one, loads. Then His Royal Highness Prince Charles wrote the most beautiful foreword to this book. And now King Charles of England, King Charles III of England, same person, wrote this some time ago, and I wanted to read it to you because it's so lovely. And this is the end part of chapter 12, so I'm going to read it to you because it's just delightful. It's titled Hidden Geometry. The beauty expressed by a flower's hidden geometry is as necessary to the world as its reproductive function is to the plant. How fascinating, though, that their beauty is communicated not by the plant, but by us. It is we who respond to its beauty. It is humanity that has always embedded this geometry in the world's greatest works of sacred art and architecture, simply because we resonate with these hidden patterns. We too are made up of them, and thus we contain the universe that contains us. Or, as the traditional philosophy for which Keith speaks would phrase it, we are each a microcosm of the macrocosm. And that was the foreword by then His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales to The Hidden Geometry of Flowers by Keith Critchlow. And it was published by Floris Books in Edinburgh in 2011. So I'm going to read a little side paragraph in that last piece in the book that I wrote, which just reiterates what I've already said, and then read you the final paragraph of that chapter because it anchors a number of things I've been talking about recently. We might add then that there is hierarchy, heterarchy, and holarchy in the human body. Hierarchy means a system in which members of an organisation or society are ranked according to relative status or authority or order of power or importance, somewhat unlike, if not opposite to, heterarchy. Heterarchy means a system of organisation where the elements of the organisation are unranked, non-hierarchical, or where they possess the potential to be ranked a number of different ways. Holarchy means a connection between holons, where a holon is both a part and a whole. And this term was actually coined in Arthur Koestler's book, 1967, The Ghost in the Machine, and it's used by Ken Wilber. Each arises from a combination of the other two. It is a beautiful way to consider the human body, symbolically and functionally, so that we can see how tissues work together to allow us to work together. And this is where in tensegrity, and I'll talk about this in another podcast in detail, that tension and compression unite to form a connected whole. And it's that third force, that connection in a particular pattern of our matter, that allows us to work as a whole. So to follow on from His Majesty's beautiful foreword, the world that contains us and the world that we contain expresses the idea of the microcosm in the macrocosm. Understanding the fascia from a view of multiplying up to connect and unite, rather than cutting apart to dissect and divide, is an invitation towards recognizing the experience of unifying, as we said at the beginning. That is, unifying mind with body and being, not just unifying the parts of us to become one body. It goes further to suggest the community, common unity, of beings together in a universal whole. For the ancient yogis, the metaphysical and the physical are parts of each other. They coexist to form a wholeness within one another. This is the principle of the embryonic development and the idea introduced in chapter 4 of a holarchy. A holarchic structure is one in which each part is whole and complete, as well as being a part of another whole and complete part or wholeness. It drives the mind in circles until it is experienced. Then we can simply recognize it. We are perhaps beginning to move from the two-dimensional world of the musculoskeletal system to a three-dimensional world of the body, where the connectivity is honoured and wholeness and relationships feature and even take precedence in the story. When we can allow for something we can't see but can perform, which is to move through ourselves to incorporate four-dimensionality, we will perhaps expand to see from 5. This is a cultural leap of faith. It takes us by the hand into that field in which the thing that makes us all the same is also what makes us all unique, yet makes us all the same continuously, like a circle within a circle, the endless cycle of an infinite continuum. Perhaps the greatest gift of yoga is 0, the circle with nothing in it, the symbol of where we begin. From here, the only thing to do is create a way, your way, unique in all its glorious forms, whoever you are. Enjoy the field. So there's a couple of little mysteries in there. One is all about 0, which I'll talk to you about in another podcast. But I hope the law of 3 in hierarchy, heterarchy, and holarchy helps you kind of expand as we find our way through this wonderful world of understanding fascia as an interface of the being in the body becoming us. Our sacred geometry just fascinates me, and can't wait to share more. Enjoy. Don't forget to press the subscribe button and hear the next in this sequence as I pull these bits together for you. And please keep your comments coming. I truly appreciate them. And know that you are a sacred being. You are designed as from within, around the principles of sacred geometry. And that's not woo-woo. It's actually science. And it's not even spiritual science. It's real science when we expand to include all of us instead of just the reasoning we've inherited. Have fun. God bless.